I'll call the April 8th, 2008 meeting of the Newport Beach City Council to order. Can we have the roll call, please?
The record will reflect that all council members are present.
Okay, do we have a closed session report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is no closed session report.
Okay, would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilman Rosansky, followed by the invocation by Reverend Tim McCalmont.
Please join me in our pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you join me in prayer? Gracious God, this evening we take time to remember that out of your mercy, you have created us, and it is only by your grace that we are even able to draw our next breath. For our life, we give you thanks. This evening we acknowledge that you have made us not to live alone in isolation, but together in groups, in families, communities, and in cities. Our prayer for each of these elected officials and for us all is that we would carry a sense of the community, a vision of the whole. May these leaders seek not simply to serve their own interests, or the interests even of their own constituency exclusively, but of the greater whole of Newport Beach. And then again, not only as Newport Beach, but this city as a part of the larger domain of our county, the state of California, our nation, and in fact, the entire planet. And Lord, tonight we pray for those men and women who have given of their time, their resources, and in many cases their lives for their country. And we pray for their families. And we pray an end to the hostilities across the world and their safe return. Oh God, help us to see the broad vision of who we are and why we are here. May we be driven by our convictions and inspired by our gratitude that the actions taken here tonight would be undertaken in a spirit of grace and a desire for justice for all people. Grant these our leaders insight and wisdom and give them a moral ballast. We thank you, God, for the privilege we have of living in this beautiful place, and we ask that we would be good stewards of what you have given to us. May all that we do bring honor to you and peace and justice to all we serve. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. First item on our agenda this evening is presentations. Our first presentation is a proclamation to the American Heart Association for Start Walking Day on April 16th, 2008. Is there a representative here to receive the proclamation? Step forward to the podium, please. And I'll read the proclamation. Whereas cardiovascular diseases, including heart disease and stroke, are the nation's leading cause of death and disability, with 1.2 million Americans suffering a new or recurrent coronary attack each year, and 780,000 suffering a new and recurrent stroke, and direct and indirect costs of cardiovascular disease, including lost productivity, are estimated to be $448.5 billion in 2008, and regular physical activity reduces cardiovascular disease and increases life expectancy, and regular walking has many proven benefits for an individual's overall health. Brisk walking for at least 30 minutes a day can lower both bad cholesterol, LDL, levels and high blood pressure. It can also help individuals who are overweight achieve and maintain weight loss and reduce their risk of stroke. And if 10% of Americans began a regular walking program, $5.6 billion in heart disease costs could be saved. And studies indicate that one of the best investments a company can make in the health of its employees. By promoting a culture of physical activity, corporate America can decrease health care costs, increase productivity, and improve the quality of life and longevity of the United States workforce. And on National Start Walking Day, April 16th, the American Heart Association's START movement calls on everyone to wear sneakers and start walking. And the purpose behind National Start Walking Day is to get Americans to become more physically active by walking. Therefore, I, Ed Selich, Mayor of the City of Newport Beach, in recognition of the importance of regular physical activity, do hereby proclaim April 16, 2008 as National Start Walking Day in the City of Newport Beach, and urge all citizens to show their support for walking and the fight against heart disease and commemorate this day by taking time to walk. By increasing the awareness of the importance of physical activity to reduce the risk for cardiovascular disease, we can save thousands of lives each year.
Well, I too support the Start Walking Day. I didn't realize we had an official city day on the 16th, so I'd like to invite the rest of the council to go walking with me on the 16th. Where would you like? We can walk Crow Del Mar if you'd like. But,
You tell me, I'll show up with you.
okay.
On behalf of the Heart Association, I just want to thank you very much for recognizing National Start Walking Day. This year, we have a movement to walk 1 million miles across the nation and raise $1 million. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you on the streets walking.
Well, I've walked every street in the city of Newport 4 times, and just finished last Christmas, and so that's why you can't hit a new street for me, so that you guys need to pick one, and I'll walk with you.
You just need to decide whether you're walking Don Webb or the Centennial Mayor. That's what I think. You got to pick one, Don. Come on.
Yeah, Mr. Webb, I might have to look you up and have you be our advocate for National Start Walking
He
Day
could be your
every year.
poster child right there.
I will find you.
Except he
My
wears,
license plate says Walking Don.
it does. Oh yeah, he's the original Walking Don.
Okay, well, I will find you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next presentation is a presentation of proclamation for the Department of Motor Vehicles Donate Life California Month. Is there a representative here this evening? Step forward, please, and I'll read the proclamation. Whereas organ, tissue, and blood donation are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expression of compassion to those in need, and more than 97,000 individuals nationwide and almost 21,000 in California are currently in the National Organ Transplant wait list, and every 90 minutes one person dies while waiting for a donated organ, and more than 400,000 units of blood per year are needed to meet the need in Southern California, and a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives. Donation of tissue can save and enhance the lives up to 50 others, and a single blood donation can help 3 people in need. And millions of lives each year are saved and enhanced by donors or organs, tissues, and blood. And more than 1 million Californians have signed up with the state-authorized Donate Life California Registry to ensure their wishes to be organ and tissue donors are honored. And California residents can sign up with the Donate Life California Registry when applying for or renewing their driver's licenses or ID cards at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Edward Selich, Mayor of the City of Newport Beach, on behalf of the entire Newport Beach City Council, do hereby proclaim April 2008 as DMV Donate Life California Month in the City of Newport Beach, and in doing so we encourage all Californians to check yes when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID card, or by signing up at the Donate or at www.donatelifecalifornia.org or www.vidacalifornia.org.
April's a very exciting month for Donate Life. Next to our participation in the Rose Parade with our float, April, we have an annual Donate Life Walk Run at Cal State Fullerton on campus. So since you're so pro-walking, I'd like to personally invite you to come on out on the 26th and join us. It's a great festival. We feed people breakfast before they walk or run. We feed them lunch after. And it's a great group of people. You'll meet people there that are not only recipients, but also people that are from donating families. We thank you very much for your support.
Mr. Mayor, I would just say that that's a very important thing for everybody to keep in mind. I've got a sticker on my driver's license, and I encourage everybody to think about it and do what you can, because it really does save lives.
I was just going to say, I did attend the festival last year. It was quite a big event, and I would encourage the mayor and Don to represent us this year. Thank you.
So encouraged. Our last presentation is a presentation of a check by the Newport Beach Arts Foundation for the Marine 1-1 Memorial Monument. Okay.
Do you want to say anything about it?
Yes, we worked very hard to raise this amount of money for the Marine Memorial, and we're very, very pleased that this money will be going to something that will enhance our community, both aesthetically and deeply emotionally. The sculpture is beautiful. We'd like to invite all of you to come to the dedication on May 26th at Castaway Park. And we thank our city council for helping us sponsor this. But we're very proud that we raised $5,000 toward this beautiful sculpture. Thank you so much.
One little simple flash here.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, first of all, I want to thank the Arts Foundation, who have been supporters of the 1-1 Memorial from the very beginning. This is a propitious event today because it marks the successful, I don't want to say conclusion because checks are coming in every day, but it marks the fact that we have reached the goal in terms of raising funds for the memorial. We are going to be able to dedicate it on Memorial Day. It's going to be a great civic event. I encourage everyone to attend. It's going to be a fabulous piece of art that will be, I think, treasured by our community for generations to come. More than 150 residents, ranging from $10 to $8,000, have supported this memorial. So it really is a gift from the people of Newport Beach on behalf of the Marines. And to the Arts Foundation, thank you so much for your continued support.
What time is it dedicated?
1 o'clock.
Councilmember Curry, if you wind up with some extra change from that drive, if you could shoot it over to the McFadden Square Memorial, that would be great.
Forget it. We want it for the City Hall Building Fund. Exactly.
Let's compromise on Oasis.
I'll arm wrestle you for it. Come on.
Okay, well, that concludes our presentations. Madam Clerk?
Notice to the public, the city provides a yellow sign-in card to assist in the preparation of the minutes. The completion of the card is not required in order to address the council. Speakers must limit comments to 5 minutes on agenda items. The council has the discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones and pagers off or set them in the silent mode. Now is the time for city council announcements or matters which council members would like placed on future agenda for discussion, action, or report.
Councilman Hen?
Nothing.
Councilman Rosansky?
None, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Daigle?
Yes, I'd like to announce that tomorrow evening at the Harbor Commission, they're going to be considering the construction of docks, primarily for use for offshore moorings, and the city has about 1,200 moorings. They pay rent to the city, and when you get into one of these moorings, it's kind of like getting into a mortgage. You got to go in with your eyes open and your brain on, because one of the challenges is that the burden of access to the moorings falls on the boat owner. And so what we're doing here is expanding the capacity for dinghies, and a number of groups will benefit from this. First of all, you have the moorings and the nearby fields. You also have visitors coming to the harbor and with a place to put the dinghy. They're then able to go to local restaurants and with our local economy. And also, one of the things that I've noticed is it benefits senior citizens, and sometimes I see an older couple driving with a dinghy on their roof and 65-pound dinghy, so instead of having to go and hoist this every time, they're going to be able to have a place to store that, so a little more convenience there. And in terms of the actual project, what we're looking at is 19th Street would add to the existing floating dock a 59-foot dock extension. It would include space for 13 dinghies. 15th Street project would add 16 dinghy slips, and then there would be an additional 27 feet for limited time side ties. And then Fernando Street would receive 20 dinghy spaces. So thanks to our Harbor Commission for bringing up these projects, and I think it's important to our community that we're able to provide some of these amenities.
Thank you. Councilmember Gardner.
The Corona Del Mar Residents Association is having its annual meeting not this Wednesday, April 23rd at 5:30 at Sherman Gardens. Everyone's invited. April 16th at 6:30, Neighborhood Watch for the Corona Del Mar area will be getting a presentation at the Corona Del Mar, not the Corona Del Mar Library, the Central Library. So far I've gotten them all wrong. And this Friday, April 11th at 6 o'clock, the police department will be seeking its revenge against the fire department in a basketball game. The fire department was triumphant in the Corona Del Mar 5K last year. Fire department will be setting up its barbecue and come early and get dinner. And last but not least, certainly not least, this sign was posted for 11 years at the 33rd Street Beach on Newport Island because of high bacteria counts. And every week the city would look, hopefully, at the public health agency's statistics, and we'd go a month, 6 weeks, think we were off, and then it would get a dirty mark again, and the area would continue to be posted. It is now coming down. The water has finally been clean enough that we can remove this sign after 11 years. That is thanks to a lot of effort from a lot of people, particularly, I would say, the city for putting a lot of money into water quality, and to the residents for changing their habits so that we have less runoff into our coastal waters.
Okay. Councilman Curry.
One of the things our city does really well is address the issue of potholes. And with the recent rains that we had in January, we had a big outcropping of additional potholes. And if you drive on San Joaquin Hills, you know that we've had reoccurring issues there. And I'm very pleased to report that tomorrow, April 9th, General Services will be there to be grinding the road and to do some permanent fixes because water was getting under the highway and causing the fixes to pop out, and putting a more permanent fix into potholes on San Joaquin Hills. And I know that's going to be very appreciated by all of the residents in that part of the city. And then also I wanted to report that I was very honored last week to participate in a week-long class at Harvard University at the Kennedy School on the topic of driving government performance. There were 56 classmates representing both the United States and more than 8 different countries to talk about strategies that help improve government and improve performance of government and its perception by its citizens. And I'm very, very proud of what we're doing in Newport Beach as being right in line with what some of the most progressive cities in the country are doing to advance government efficiency and performance measurement. So I was proud to represent Newport Beach and know the taxpayers didn't pay for any of the trip, but it was a great experience.
Thank you. Councilman Webb.
Yes, I'd like to remind people, if you haven't seen the notice, that this Thursday afternoon at 5 o'clock at the Boy Scouts Sea Base, the Orange County Transportation Authority, OCTA, will be putting on an open house to discuss the possible alternatives for the extension of Route 55 through downtown Costa Mesa, terminating just before Industrial Way. They've had 2 hearings in Costa Mesa, which have been very heavily attended by Costa Mesa residents, and this is an opportunity if the Newport Beach residents in the corridor around Newport Boulevard had not had an opportunity to attend those meetings, to attend a meeting in Newport Beach and see a broad, excuse me, a broad range of alternatives which the consultant has put together, some of which are very grandiose, others which are very modest. And they're looking to try to get as much input as possible from the public in general. So I would encourage you to come. It's an open house, so you can drop in, look at the alternatives, have a discussion with staff members, and leave or stick around for the whole time. The other thing that we have going on that I have had a significant impact on the citizens of Newport that use Coast Highway is Caltrans is doing a repaving project, and it is pure chaos between Newport Boulevard and Dover. You were going to do that too. Okay, I'll let the mayor put an announcement together that. But if you can, like for instance, yesterday I had a doctor's appointment and got on Dover Drive and saw the backup and was able to use Jamboree Road. So I encourage everybody else to go around the north end of the bay, stop using Coast Highway for a week so that we can get a good paving job.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. In case people miss your 55 presentation at the Sea Scout base, there will be one at Speak Up Newport tomorrow evening at their monthly meeting at the Newport Beach Yacht Club at Bayside Drive and Marine Avenue. There's a social hour that starts at 5 o'clock, and the presentation itself will start at 6 o'clock, and I think it'll be the same people that are coming to the Sea Scout base that are making that presentation. So there's two opportunities to get informed as far as what the proposals are on the Route 55 termination. And then the mayor started to, or the Centennial Mayor, I guess I should say, started to steal my thunder on the traffic delays on Coast Highway, and I have a little announcement I'd like to read about that there are two major construction projects underway on Coast Highway between Dover Drive and Newport Boulevard. Both projects are necessary. Both have associated lane closures, and both are causing significant traffic delays. And I know that personally because my girlfriend called me at 10:30 this morning. It's after sitting in it for 40 minutes and said, "You're the mayor, can't you do something about this?" I told her no. Anyway, in the short term, the Orange County Sanitation District will complete its valve replacement project on westbound Coast Highway near Sterling BMW on Thursday. The contractor ran into some problems, but is working diligently to finish that work. The longer-term project that Councilman Webb referred to is the Caltrans repaving project on Coast Highway between Dover Drive and Newport Boulevard. This project is underway and will continue through the first week of May. The worst delays to accommodate the actual paving will continue through April 18th. Caltrans is working from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, so those are the hours you want to avoid, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Please anticipate and plan for these traffic delays. Although these projects are on the state-controlled portion of Coast Highway, our city staff has been working with both agencies to notify the public and reduce to the extent possible congestion problems associated with the work. For more information, the Caltrans Transportation Helpline is 800-724-0353. That's 800-724-0353. Councilman Zansky?
Yeah, I'll just add, since we're talking about road closures, if you're avoiding Coast Highway, you might want to avoid Superior as well, because both Newport Beach and Costa Mesa are repaving Superior from Coast Highway up to 17th Street. So it is kind of spotty through there as well. There's delays and grinding and all kinds of good stuff going on. Getting the city shipshape for the summer traffic.
All right. Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Consent calendar. All matters listed under consent calendar, items 1 through 9, and supplemental items S13 and S14 are considered by the council to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. The city council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the council votes on the motion unless members of the council, staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Members of the public who wish to discuss a consent calendar item should come forward to the lectern upon invitation by the mayor, state their name and item number. If the optional sign-in card has been completed, it should be placed in the box provided at the podium.
Okay, Councilmember Garden, do you have any items to pull?
Nothing.
Councilman Curry?
No?
Councilman Webb left the room. Councilman Henn?
Nothing to pull, but just an item of note with the indulgence of my fellow council members. Item number 7 should be clarified to make it very clear that a specific deliverable relating to an analysis and recommendation regarding the applicability of automated parking solutions should be called out in the contract.
Okay. Councilman Rosansky?
None, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Daigle?
No items to pull, but I did want to comment on item number 5. That's the remodel of our lobby of our police department. And certainly if you go through the back door, or through the Sally Port, as it's called, it's very austere. That's the door that you go through to go to jail. However, our front door, we are going to spruce up.
And rightly so.
There you go.
Are you familiar with that door?
I don't know that door. So we are going to spruce up the front door a little bit, and wanted to acknowledge one of our community members, Keenam, for his contributions to help offset the cost of those improvements. And then secondly, on S13, Santa Ana River Trails Vision Plan, I wanted to note that it will improve public access. Thank you.
Councilman Webb, did you have anything to pull? Okay, I have nothing to pull, but I would make a comment on item S14, the stipend for the City Hall Design Commission. That at the initial meeting of the City Hall Design Committee last evening, they confirmed that the $50,000 is the appropriate amount. Is there any items staff wishes to pull?
I have nothing.
Okay, anything from the public, please?
S14.
Okay, S14. Okay, anything else?
Almost made it through.
Dick Nichols, Corona Del Mar. Item 6, I have that's regarding your power generators, and I'm questioning why we have these. They should be minimized. We have a couple of our own, and I don't see any reason why we should be using a tremendous amount outside. I also know from the Air Quality District that these particular items are very much looked askance on.
Dick, are you pulling the item or not?
Let's pull the item then.
Okay.
I basically would like to, item 7, I would like to find out just what you plan on doing there. Are we going to go to that or not? Item 8, that's another item that I'd like to see a little discussion. Those costs on the oil wells are huge. And then I would like to, it would seem to me, Ms. Gardner, if you'd explain that Santa Ana River Trails, it'd be very worthwhile. Thank you.
Okay. Any other items to pull? Okay, did you get all those, Councilman Daigle?
I believe so. Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve items 1 to 9, S13, S14, clarifications on 7, as noted by Councilmember Henn. We're going to be pulling S14, number 6, number 7, number 8, and S13.
Okay. Please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, the first item that was pulled was item number 6, the approval of the professional services agreement with Global Power Group, Inc. for on-call generator maintenance and repair services. Staff, do you want to answer the question Mr. Nichols raised?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this isn't for additional generators. It is for on-call maintenance whenever we have generators that need to be fixed to provide us backup power. So this would just provide a contract for maintenance services on an on-call basis that would be charged on an hourly rate so that we have somebody that we know that we can call and will be available to provide that service.
I move. Second.
Okay, does anyone wish to comment on this item? Okay, seeing no one, please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item that's pulled is the item number 7, the professional services agreement with Walker Parking Consultants for a parking management study and parking code analysis. Mr. Nichols, did you have a specific question on that that you'd like the council to address?
A very significant presentation was put forth in your earlier meeting, and we're talking about stackable car parking lots, which have a pretty high dollar value for parking, and I'm wondering whether this is appropriate in many of the areas that you're talking about. For example, in Corona Del Mar, you're talking probably $5 to $7 to park a car in these stackable parking lots. This is way beyond what the people are looking for community service type, buildings. And if you are talking about increasing your demand in many of the areas of the city where these type of parking is necessary, then basically it looks like you're going back to the 6-lane highway in through Corona Del Mar, because you're talking about a massive growth here that you're undertaking, and I think people should be aware of this. This is for the number 1 class high-rise type buildings and the services that people are going to be spending some time at in order to pay those kind of parking fees for stackable parking. I would like to have comments. Is that what you're attempting to do, or are we looking forth to that kind of growth in the city? Is that what the council is looking for, or are we looking to relatively hold our city as it is in slow growth during this period of financial problems?
Well, I will just say that it's a feasibility study. I think the stackable parking idea is just one idea of many that will be considered in the study. Does staff have any additional information you want to add to that?
Yeah, just a little bit. This is not a project to implement any kind of a specific parking solution. It's a study of the parking demand and supply that we have currently, especially in our older commercial areas, and a study of some different management techniques we might use to make better use of that parking, as well as to look at possibilities for adding to that public parking supply. It's also, these consultants are going to help us out with parking requirements in our new zoning code, especially taking a look at the new mixed-use areas we've added and the possibility to consider shared parking.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, good evening. My name is Dolores Otting. I live in Newport Beach. Just so the public knows, we're going to be spending $196,380 on a feasibility study for parking in areas that need parking, but unless we tear down buildings, there's not I'm sure that this company can do something. My concern is that here we are spending more money on a consultant, and yet year after year or a few months, every now and then, we decide that we should, kind of tell the people that maybe they're going to get an emergency warning system, which will cost $200,000. But it never makes it to the 7 o'clock meeting. So I'm so happy that everyone thinks that parking is more important than people's lives, and hopefully soon that $200,000 item might make it on to the 7 o'clock agenda item, and maybe you might actually do something about tsunami areas down on the peninsula, since we've had a couple more earthquakes. Nothing devastating, but none of us know the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Move the recommended action.
Please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is S13. Councilman Member Gardner, do you wish to make some comments on that?
About a year ago, the city got a grant from the Wildlands Conservancy to do a vision plan for our end of the Santa Ana River. We had a group of about a dozen people with different representations in the city, and we met on a regular basis with the facilitator, Ann Dove, who is the daughter of longtime resident Gray Stuff, and came up with ideas of how we could improve access, improve the aesthetics of the river. At the same time, the cities of Huntington Beach and Costa Mesa are completing their vision plans, and the idea is that we will then sit down, look at how we combine them, and then go out into the community and get public reaction to some of these suggestions and see what we can implement to make the Santa Ana River a recreational facility as well as a flood control facility.
Okay, any public comments on this item? Okay, is there a motion?
Second.
Move it. Yes.
Oh, did I jump the gun with my second there? Please vote.
We'll vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item is item number 8. It's the oil well service repairs, approval of amendment number 1 to professional services agreement. Mr. Nichols, you had a question on that item?
This particular item is a renewal of the service contract on these oil wells, and the prices are going up rather hefty. Even a helper is $100 and some an hour, and that includes his time to and from the job at $101 an hour. So it's a pretty high price we're paying for that. These oil wells are all getting old. Most of them are only running part-time. My question is isn't it appropriate for the city to do a pretty decent analysis here to find out how much is it paying and how are we going to handle them in the future? Are we going to keep the 2 bases that we're doing our drilling from? Are we going to have as much facility as we have now? It was talked about in the development of the project down there that we would reduce the footprint of the drilling areas very significantly. If we do that, that might entertain drilling new wells to reach these same spots that we're pulling oil out of the ground now, or adjacent spots. And is it really worth it to put that into that project is what I'm asking. And I think it should be looked at. It's something that is overdue, and although we are making money off of that, we are not making huge amounts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment on this item?
I'd like to make one comment. Shake your head yes or no. Or did we make over $1 million last year? Okay. That's not an insignificant amount of money, Dick. And I think that you're confusing the West Newport oil with the Newport beaches, and those oil islands that were going to be combined are the West Newport oil islands. And I don't believe Newport has to date decided whether or not we were going to do anything related to redrilling our wells. So our wells stay the same. Move the action.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. City Manager, did you have anything to add to what Mr. Webb said?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is S14. Mr. Allen?
Thank you very much. My name is Barry Allen. I live in Corona Del Mar. I attended the Design Review Committee meeting last night, and also there was the mayor and councilpersons Rosansky and Henn, and it started out at $25,000, and then 4 architects decided to move it to $50,000. I don't understand. This is a competition for people who want a job, and we're going to pay them money to enter the competition, and now we want to make it $50,000 rather than $25,000. Now, all the people last night said that it would cost more than $50,000 to make a presentation. So we're already giving them, if we give them $25,000 or give them nothing, they're going to spend more than that to get the job. I'm just concerned about how we're just going to give $250,000 to maybe 5 people, or if there's 4 that the committee votes on, they're going to end up with $200,000 of our city money. And I don't see why we're concerned about paying people who want to enter this competition to build a 90,000 square foot building with a 500 place parking structure, according to what I've been reading now, plus a park, and we're worried that these people aren't going to come in and give us the best designs and the best shot at getting this job if we don't pay them to do it. Now, I've been in a lot of competitions to try and get a job as an attorney. I've never been paid anything for attending meetings, even flying to another city to try and apply for the job.
Maybe that's telling you something.
Well, I don't know about anybody else. Any engineers here? I mean, Don Webb, does he know about engineers being paid anything to bid on a job? If you came up with a plan to build a city hall, you just go to an architect and say, well, here, design me a building, and then you put it out to bid as to what the architect wants to pay. How much you want? $200 an hour? What are you going to pay them? All of a sudden, we're saying to these 4 or 5 people, in a beauty contest, the way described by the most articulate man on the committee last night, Rush Hill, this is nothing but a beauty contest. So we're going to pay $250,000 of taxpayers' money for a beauty contest to a bunch of people who may get picked to maybe design a city hall. I don't think that that's a reasonable expenditure of city funds. And I submit to you that anything that goes out on this project that says we're going to build a 90,000 square foot city hall, 500 place to park cars, and plus a park in the city of Newport Beach. This isn't Redlands, this isn't Ventura, this isn't some small town in Arkansas. This is Newport Beach, California. If you think that anybody who wants to build a building of this size, with the amount of money that's going to be involved, we all know how expensive it's going to be. It's going to be a major project. And I submit we're probably going to hire the architect, or you're probably going to hire the architect, not me. You're going to hire the architect with a design-build contract, so he's going to be on the job, supervising the job throughout the entire project. You don't have to pay anybody anything to do that. $25,000 was the figure that was talked about last night, then it got bumped to $50,000 by the architects. Now, tonight, the city clerk said that all of you had been provided with detailed staff reports on all the issues on the consent calendar tonight, including these. I have not seen a staff report on this. I look for it outside. Is there a staff report on it?
There is a staff report. It should have been outside on the table.
No, we look for it. I look for it. Several other people are looking for it. I didn't find one out there for this particular project. So I don't know what it said about why we're going from 25 to 50. And I wanted to be able to address what the staff report said, but I didn't see one. What does it say as to why we're going from 25 to 50? Okay, I see that. Okay, so you went to the meeting last night. The architects met and agreed to raise the fee to architects to come up with a design from $25,000 to $50,000. Not an insignificant amount. I submit that the amount that should be paid in a stipend, if anything, should be no more than $25,000. I just think $250,000 if we pick 5 people, $200,000 if we pick 4 is just too much money. And I really think that the City Hall ought to think about it, or the City Council, excuse me, should think about it, because I'm just not aware of any profession that gets paid to enter a design contest for a project of this size with all the money they can make on it. It just doesn't seem to make sense. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Please step forward.
Good evening, Jan Vandersloot, Newport Heights. I also attended the meeting last night and heard the architect speak. And the staff report that I saw online concerning this item included the request for qualifications. I'm wondering if I can make a comment on that.
No, that's not on the agenda.
It's not on the...
The only thing that's on the agenda is the
staff report.
$50,000. That was only included because there's a blank line for the amount. It's the only thing we're discussing this evening.
Okay, I won't talk about it, but I think the public does need to know that the City Hall has increased in size from 70,000 to 90,000 square feet. I'd like to know who made that decision of a revised needs assessment to expand the size of the City Hall on the property and the size of the parking lot on the property. And what we're going to find, the city people voted for City Hall in the park and not for City Hall to replace the park. So I would ask people to keep the faith with the electorate and try to keep the City Hall within that 70,000 square foot, 3-acre portion that was promised to people before the election of Measure B. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings up a question. Are we going to see, as the council as a whole, going to see the criteria?
Yes.
Okay, great. Oh, I just, Jan, it was a bobcat and a raccoon that we saw. There, yeah, they found we saw 2 dead animals that were drowned, and we couldn't get to them, so General Services cleaned them up.
This is the last time, so you're off.
Always happy to see your face, Dick.
I'm sure. I'm very sure. The contract planning services, you're supposed to write a scope of the work and set down what the criteria is for the transportation. In other words, do we need more roads? How are we going to do these?
Dick, the item we're talking about is the amount of the stipend, not the RFQ.
Well, but you have not, when are you going to do that part that's needed for this? In other words, that stipend in RFQ is not to do that. That was to be laid out by the council, according to what I understood, and those requirements were to be published. Are they going to be done at a public-type meeting where you look at this?
The design parameters that were discussed at the meeting, or the, I forget what parameters, what was the parameters? The program parameters is the committee discussed and will be discussed at a future city council meeting, and it'll be noticed to the public, and we'll be discussing those in public. But those are not what's on the agenda tonight. The only item on the agenda tonight is the amount of the stipend.
That wasn't very clear from the way it was said.
Apologize for that, but that's what it is.
Hi, my name is Dolores Otting. I live in Newport Beach. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Yeah, the document says that it's the $50,000 stipend, but then what's attached to it is the draft qualification. This isn't the first time we've put an agenda item on the agenda, and it's not the first time we've made, so this is very confusing. And it's on the attached document that it talks about a 90,000 square foot city hall and a 500 space parking structure. And so we're going to raise this fee to $50,000, which is, I guess, maybe times 4 or 5. So that's like $250,000. So there goes another opportunity to get an emergency warning system down on the peninsula. So here we go tonight with $400,000 later, and I guess I will start adding it up, because this $50,000 stipend per person represents a process within the city. We just, by the way, I thought the design committee, you should really change the name, because they're not designing anything. And they did a great job. They were all phenomenal. They all read the report. It was a 3-hour meeting. Councilwoman Gardner, it was kind of like going to EQUAC, okay? And they did a great job. It was 3 hours of wordsmithing, and it was wonderful. What was very disturbing about the meeting and about this $50,000 stipend is the fact that we just ended a very controversial election, and this document attached to the stipend document, which is for the public, basically talks about a 90,000 square foot city hall. There was talks last evening of taking Farallon out to MacArthur. There's going to be sewer lines. There's going to be traffic lights. We're going to improve traffic congestion for the Irvine Company, but my God, why shouldn't we? And I guess, and also then we found out that the needs assessment that's attached to this document that's part of the $50,000 stipend, our needs assessment is being updated by staff. It's kind of like giving your wife like a week at Bloomingdale's and saying, here, take the credit card, buy yourself 3 outfits a day for 7 days, and don't worry about how much it costs. That's what kind of, to me, I think we need, like a consultant to review our, here I am spending money, but in this case, I think it would be well worth it, because I thought it was supposed to be greening the city, and I thought that we'd be having less people come to work every day. And since they work 4 days a week, 10 hours, maybe we could think of a plan where they could work 3 days a week, 12 hours, and then we could have one office serve 2 people. I mean, just think, we could cut it down to $45,000 and a reasonable amount of money. Again, attach this $50,000 stipend, because these people aren't even going to know what to design. And the other point I wanted to make is that we just finished this this very controversial election with a lot of money spent and a lot of information being pumped out. And what it resulted in is me realizing at my age, and I'm glad I found out today, that the initiative process in the city of Newport Beach doesn't work because both sides lost. Yes on B lost and no on B lost. Because nowhere, at no time did anyone think that they were going to be putting, that you would be putting a 90,000 square foot. And you, it's like overwhelming, 90,000 square feet there, which is going to probably cost over $100 million because we're not even asking people to sharpen their pencil to do this design competition. We want the best of the best, from the light bulb to the stuff on the floor, okay, that's good, that was covered last night and is in this attachment. We want the best of the best. And I don't think that anyone signed up for that, and it's very disappointing. And $100 million minimum with, of course, Councilmember Curry can tell you how much that will cost us, $200 million. So now that $350 million worth of debt's just raised up to $500 million in one night. And shame on you guys for not pulling this item. Oh, Don, go, excuse me, Centennial Mayor, shake your head at me all you want, but shame on you guys for not pulling this item tonight and letting the public know what it says. You know, you guys didn't pull it, we had to. You are our public servants, I mean, believe it or not, you know, and you just got the whole city mad at you. Thank you.
Thank you, I think. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll close that item. Just to clarify things, the $50,000 amount was a recommendation by the building committee. That's why it was in the staff report. The architects committee last night didn't raise it from $25,000 to $50,000. They merely verified what the building committee had recommended. I can tell you that from my experience, I went out and researched this on what it would take to get the best architectural talent to come and submit proposals to enter this competition, and my research showed that that was probably just about the right amount, probably a little on the low end of the scale to get the kind of talent that we're expecting to get here. I think it's money well invested in the front end to make sure that we get a high-quality building. It's a very significant building. It's a very emotional project, as you can see by the comments in the city, and I don't agree with Mr. Allen that architects are just going to come and bid and propose on this just because it's in the city of Newport Beach. So it was a recommendation of the building committee, and it wasn't just something that was thought up by the architects last night. Any other comments on this?
I
Mayor Pro Tem
would,
Daigle?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the analogy to the legal profession and how they solicit work. The design profession, it's something else. And not a member of that profession, but in speaking with people who are members of that profession, it is standard practice to have this kind of a competition. And when that happens, to attract top-notch talent, it was recommended the $50,000 would be more appropriate and more effective in terms of attracting a top-notch architect. So I would agree with the recommendation of the building committee. and the
Councilman Webb?
I move the recommended action.
Second.
Okay, any other comments? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item is oral reports on, from City Council on committee activities. Councilman Henn.
Nothing.
Councilman Rosansky.
Nothing, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Daigle.
Wanted to mention that the media committee is going to be meeting tomorrow at 2:30 to look at the city's communication plan. And then our Citizen Aviation Committee meets monthly with our citizens, served with Mayor Selich and Councilman Webb, and with support and considerable support from our city manager. And on item 12, I'll mention a little bit more where we're looking at a contract with Tom Edwards as far as the kinds of issues that we've been taking up there consistent with the council policy.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Gardner.
Nothing.
Councilman Curry.
The Finance Committee had a productive meeting yesterday where we reviewed the parameters of our city's insurance program. Councilman Henn asked some very incisive questions. I'm pleased to report I think we have a very good handle on where we are in terms of our insurance. and how it's structured and the cost that we're paying for what we're getting, and some very good strategy in terms of follow-up on that. We also had a report on our benchmarking and performance measurement initiatives. I'm pleased to report those are also moving along very well with good staff participation, and we anticipate bringing that back to the council for further consideration in the next month or two.
Councilman Webb?
I have nothing.
Okay, and I have nothing. Okay, next item is public hearings. It's review of the Community Development Block Grant fiscal year 2008-2009 one-year action plan for submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Mr. Mayor, Kathy Bowden, who's our relatively new Economic Development Coordinator, will lead us through this public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. HUD requires the city to complete a one-year action plan to receive funds under the Community Development Block Grant Program. The action plan is a component of the city's 5-year consolidated plan. More importantly, the document serves as the annual application for CDBG funding and contains a list of activities the city will assist with CDBG funds during the upcoming fiscal year. The city's entitlement amount for the 2008-2009 fiscal year is $355,659. 5 public service providers submitted applications for CDBG grants in response to the city's notice of funding availability, requesting a total of $53,348. The 5 service providers include Human Options, South County Senior Services, Serving People in Need, or SPIN, Families Forward, and the Fair Housing Council of Orange County. As proposed, the Irvine-based nonprofit Families Forward will serve as the city's homeless shelter service provider because the city's previous provider, which was Orange County Interfaith Shelter, did not request funding for the upcoming fiscal year. It is necessary for the city to maintain a homeless shelter provider in order to comply with the housing element of the city's general plan. Staff recommends approval of the 2008-2009 draft CDBG action plan, and I can answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, Councilman Zansky?
I realize that you're new to our city and probably haven't, well, certainly you haven't administered the grants or the process before, but it seems like we had a lot more interest in years past for grant money. Is there any particular reason why it's tailed off this year?
I'm afraid that I'm not sure that I can answer
well,
that question.
I assume
However,
that, so I'm going to look to Sharon, since she probably has the answer probably.
Well, the amount of our grant has been going down a little bit year by year, and we're limited. We can only use 20% of the grant for the public services. And a couple years ago, we reached a point where, with the number of grants we were handing out, the amounts to each grantee were so small that it got to the point where it wasn't worth it to them to do all the monitoring and reporting activities. So at that point, we started to have fewer people applying for them. We're assuming they're getting funding from other sources, and so we were able to give a reasonable amount of money, but to fewer agencies.
But is just less of an interest in applying for the money?
For the amounts that we could give with that many potential
Okay.
grantees.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public wish to comment on this item? That's fine.
My name is Margie Wakeham, and I'm the Executive Director at Families Forward. We're relatively new to the city of Newport Beach, and this is the first time I've had an opportunity to address you. So I wanted to share just a little bit of information about Families Forward. We're almost 25 years old. You wouldn't know from the looks here. But we've been a small grassroots agency located in the city of Irvine, and started serving homeless families with 5 apartments. And we have moved to serve the entire county with our homeless services. We have 25 homes currently. where we have housed families who have lost their housing who are homeless. And we also have a broader range of services. In fact, we have served residents from the city of Newport Beach through our food pantry and our career program for several years. And I think the number that I shared with your housing element people was 150, is about the number that we served within the last year in our food pantry. Of course, with the economy being what it is, and I'm sure many people in Newport Beach feel the same as people in the city of Irvine, that we don't have homeless people and we don't have families who live here that are in crisis. But I can tell you that the people that we are seeing at Families Forward are middle and upper middle class people who have had six-figure incomes, who have been hit by the building, the mortgage, the banking, et cetera. And it's just a matter of time before they lose their housing. My request to you would be that you refer people sooner than later, because there is often a resource or two that we can put them in touch with. And I did not bring them with me tonight, but I do have brochures that can be handed out to people who are looking for services. And I brought a brochure for you and some business cards. And I would invite you, if you are interested, to make your way up to Irvine, to our office, and we would love to share more about what we do and the people that we serve. And I can answer questions if you have them. Otherwise,
Well, what's the average length of stay, would you say?
the average length of stay for families in our program is about 1 year. And we try to tie that length of stay to the school year. What we find is that upsetting a child in the middle of his education is really a bigger disaster than already exists. So we try to tie that to some logical break. But a year is about average. It's kind of like baking a cake. They tell me, you leave it in too long, it burns, and take it out too soon and it falls.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Jean Wegner. I'm the Executive Director of SPIN, and I want to thank you for your support of our program. SPIN was founded in Newport Beach, which is one of the reasons that we come to Newport and ask you for funding and support of our programs. We've been based in Newport Beach. We're now in Costa Mesa for obvious reasons, part of which is rental costs of our offices. But we still have a great deal of support in Newport Beach, and many of our volunteers come from Newport Beach. Last year, our auditor found that we had over 10,000 volunteer hours donated to our organization, which is a wonderful indicator of the support that we do have. Most of our board of directors are from Newport Beach and reside in Newport Beach and or work in Newport Beach. We had 93% of the funds that we raised go directly to our programs. We're very proud of that fact, and our board works very diligently to make sure that happens, as well as myself. 86% of the people that we funded in our programs last year became self-sufficient, and that's the basis of our programs, to make sure that they not only go through our programs with long-term case management, but they become self-sufficient. So I do thank you for your support, and one of the reasons I think that Newport likes to fund us is because one of the components of HUD is that you have to report certain numbers and certain successes. So I'm always conservative when I say I'll do. Last year I said I would fund 7 people with your monies, and we funded 14. So we doubled what we said we would do. And I hope I'll do the same for you this year, too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's like 93% is an amazing number.
Any other public comment on this item?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. My name is Alicia Basurto. I'm the new Associate Director for Human Options, the Domestic Violence Agency. I wanted to thank you, first of all, for the committee for the recommendation of $5,000 allocation. However, I just wanted to clarify that we proposed to serve 45 clients, not 5. That was actually in the draft in the CDBG action plan. So just wanted to clarify that. But Human Options is a nonprofit organization founded in 1981 with the primary purpose of helping battered women, their families, and the community to break the cycle of violence. In particular, Community Research Center opened its doors in 1997 as an outpatient walk-in center for families. We provide comprehensive services which are offered both in English and Spanish. Our services include crisis intervention, children's counseling, adult counseling, support groups, the personal empowerment program, the parent education groups, legal advocacy, and job opportunity. We also assess and connect our clients to our 45-day emergency shelter, and we also have transitional housing that we connect our families to. So far this year, in the first 2 quarters, we've served 24 clients, and we're hoping to meet our target rate of 40. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for
Move the
action.
recommended action.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, that concludes our public hearings this evening. Madam Clerk?
Public comments. Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record.
Okay, public comments are now invited. Please step forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Deborah Reed. I'm with the South Coast Air Quality Management District. I'm the public affairs representative for Orange County. I'm your point of contact to any questions or concerns you have about air quality. I've also pleased to say that I've enjoyed living here for over 15 years, and so I'm pleased to be here tonight. I'm just here tonight to just provide you with some information. I brought our latest newsletter, which updates you on a lot of what we're doing. And thank you. And also a little save-the-date card. There's going to be a conference, an expo on new and emerging clean air technologies and innovations in September. It's called The Future is Green. I brought you some save-the-date cards for that. And finally, I just wanted to mention that the nominations are now open for our 20th Annual Clean Air Awards. And there are 5 categories for these awards. And we're really looking for either individuals, organizations, cities, and you can nominate yourself, people or companies that have done something extraordinary or notable or progressive related to helping us clean the air. So if you can think of any good candidates for that, you can let me know. Your city manager knows how to contact me. For the public, you can go to our website, which is www.aqmd.gov, and there's a little banner link there for more information. And thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Councilman Gardner?
I'd just like to thank you, because as soon as she heard about our new task force on green development, Deborah volunteered to help us with her expertise.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tony Pecca. The only thing I'd like to address is what Mr. Webb mentioned, an item earlier this evening pertaining to the SR 55 access study and the SR 55 issue. Approximately 10,000 residents of the city of Costa Mesa, 2,000 property owners, private property owners, have asked me just to address this very quickly to you this evening. They are at issue with Caltrans and OCTA and the city of Costa Mesa in very serious matters. I won't get into that. But it does revolve around the 1987 freeway agreement being valid and being still in force. Those 2,000 property owners have not been made whole by that agreement as the city of Newport Beach has been made whole. They'd like an opportunity to be made whole before that agreement disappears, and that's kind of attached to the SR 55 access study. We know that alternatives may be a good idea, but not without the freeway agreement disappearing prior to them being made whole. Further, because of the issue that they are having, they would more than likely consider any agency or entity that would be involved in the deletion of that agreement prior to them being made whole or being given an opportunity to be made whole would more than likely be considered as obstructive or perhaps even culprative in that. We certainly remember a lot of the wisdom in the Newport Beach City Council with Mr. Webb navigating the citizens through this issue back in 1987. And I'd just like to leave you with the consideration that people in the city of Costa Mesa would like to have that opportunity as well. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to address the council? Please step forward.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Karen Tringali from Corona Del Mar. 8 weeks ago, we had an election, and 7 weeks ago, I came before council and asked that you be accountable, pun intended, to some of the promises that were made in the campaign. Last night, I also attended the City Hall Planning or Design Committee meeting and was surprised to learn that in the course of the few short weeks between the election and last night's meeting, that there has been in process a needs analysis which now indicates that perhaps City Hall building is not going to be 72,000 square feet, but approaching perhaps 90,000 square feet, which is a 25% increase in the size of the building we were all talking about during the election campaign. In addition to the parking structure increasing in size, in addition to the City Hall increasing in size, the parking requirements also increased by 25%. During the campaign, we heard a lot of different numbers about the cost of parking, so depending on which number you apply to that, the incremental parking cost that we're talking about as of last night could be in the range of anywhere between $3 to $6 million just to cover those additional 125 spaces, which is a 25% increase. A lot's happened in 8 weeks, and I don't think anybody knows the answer to these questions, but we can see that there's a movement toward increasing the size of the building, increasing the size of the parking. And one of the campaign promises that comprehended lower costs at this location, comprehended a 10-acre park at this location. If we expand the building, if we expand the parking, and we're still going to keep our 10-acre park, and we can't go up because we have view issues for the public coming down MacArthur and view issues for the neighborhood. We can't go out because that'll encroach on the 10-acre park that we were promised, and I don't think that we ultimately want the City Hall and the bunker, which is also talked about. I'm just concerned on many levels about what we've heard last night. Now, the good news is we did hear it last night, so the fact that these meetings are open and available to the public, I think, is certainly a good indication that council has the right spirit in mind. But there's a lot of disturbing information, I think, that came out of that meeting last night, and we'll look for much more clarity as we go through the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, my name's Dolores Otting. Council members, I live in Newport Beach. I want to echo what Karen just said, and Karen was a no on B, and I was a yes on B. So all the bees, it's like kind of like a swarm, okay? So we all found a honeycomb, all right? And anyway, and also there's another interesting issue is that we recently completed a land use deal, probably one of the largest within the city of Newport Beach, with the Irvine Company. And at that time, if we needed a needs assessment, why wasn't it done then? I mean, we gave up stuff to the Irvine Company that wasn't even in the general plan, and so why wasn't that done? I'm all confused. All of a sudden, we need to have like 15, 20,000 more square feet of space. But anyway, I guess we'll be talking about that more and more. And also, what I want to remind everybody out in the land of television and on streaming video is this is all public money. And so what we should ask to be happening is that all of these meetings be done in public, including the ad hoc building committee meeting that's in charge of everything. Because when you spend the public money, you are supposed to spend it in public. I mean, you know, you guys aren't just picking up the bill. If that was the case, I wouldn't be saying a word, okay? Because by all means, bill the biggest thing if you're all just going to pay for it. But it's not going to be you that's paying for it. It's going to be this generation and the next generation, and maybe even half of the next generation. Who knows, okay? Because nobody has a crystal ball with this economy. So also, last Friday morning, as much as I hate getting up, it was 7:10, and I was over in Fountain Valley at the WACO, whatever you want to call the meeting. It's Water Association, and I don't remember what the CO stands for. But anyway, Pierre Swan is in charge, and I don't know, there was probably 80 people in the room, and the item of discussion that morning was pharmaceuticals in the drinking water. And one of the things they brought up is that they are, you know, at minuscule amounts, but in the meantime, they have never been tested. They don't test for pharmaceuticals in the drinking water. And the interesting thing that I got to bring to the table is, because I do so much research on water, is the fact that the World Health Organization in 1974 or 76 said that the United States consumed 18.4% of all the pharmaceuticals that are produced worldwide. In 2000, we now consume over 52% in 2000 of all the pharmaceutical products made worldwide. So I don't know what it is in 2008, but it's probably, you know, like approaching 60% of all the drugs made in the world we consume here. So we're getting more and more and more. And even though there wasn't bacteria in the water down on that beach, you bet your bitby there's pharmaceuticals and drugs down there. And also the inactive ingredients, 80% of them come from third world countries, and 70% of the drugs that we consume into our bodies come from India, China, and Hong Kong. And China is trying to be #1. So, and those labs don't get tested. So there's more than just drugs in the drinking water. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jan Bannister, Newport Heights. I'd like to go along with the other previous two speakers, and I think that this is an opportunity for the people who voted yes on B and the people who voted no on B to get together and make sure that the promises that were made and the concepts that were developed during the election will actually be carried out, and that we will have somewhat of a plan that was brought out before the public before the election, because it seems now that City Hall is trying to metastasize itself over the park site. And so what we want to try to do is try to limit the City Hall buildings to the 3 acres that were promised by the election. Now, I think one of the reasons why the square footage has gone up, because they're talking about a community center there and a city council chambers, and I suggest that maybe we consider retaining this building for a community center. Historically, we could keep this place the way it is, and maybe we don't have to spend the money to build a bigger building complex north of the library. Secondly, it was brought to my attention by a citizen today that there are a number of trees that are being cut down out on the way to De Anza Mobile Home Park. There are a bunch of olive trees there that I went down after work today, and I found out that indeed there are a number of olive trees that have been cut down or just being sawdust there. There's a G1 policy that has to do with removal and replacement of trees in the city. And I'm not sure, has that been approved by the city, that city trees along Bayside Drive there in De Anza Mobile Home Park, has something been approved there through official channels? Because I wrote an email to the parks people, and I haven't received back yet, but it seems to me that city trees are just being cut down without a plan. They're not going through channels. There's a specific channel that they have to go through the G1 policy. And I just want to bring it to your attention. We went through a lot of trouble with the trees in the city. We want to make sure things are done right. Maybe Homer can answer that question for us.
Mr. Mayor, Mark Harmon has been involved in meeting with the De Anza Homeowner Association leadership, and those trees are going to be replaced, but the channels have been gone through on that, Dr. Vandersloot.
What are the reasons for the removal and replacement of the trees?
Yeah, I'm not close enough to it to know, but I'm sure he would be glad to have that conversation with you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Webb.
I know that G1 is well and strong because I receive probably 4 or 5 letters a month from the General Services Department indicating trees that they are going to remove for various different reasons. Most of them are because they're diseased trees, and I usually check them out pretty carefully, and I think there was one of them that I was able to convince them that they didn't need to go out, but the others have been pretty good. Have been really sick trees. Even
Is that
as an
the reason for
engineer.
these olive trees are?
No, these are. I'm talking about in District 3.
Right.
Eucalyptus trees and several other trees in the park that are literally dead, and they go through the process of sending the letter out to the city council members as well as whose district it is in, as well as going through the other processes of G1. So our general services staff is doing that. Now, I don't know if other private residences are removing trees, but I know that our city is following the process.
Well, I know what you're talking about, and it is true that G1 policy does have provisions for dying trees, diseased trees that can't be cured. What I don't know about is whether it's actually being followed in this particular case, because those trees look plenty healthy to me when I look at them.
I think as Mr. Bludow said, contact Mr. Harmon. I'm sure he can explain the details of that whole situation to you.
Gary Allen, Corona Del Mar. Unlike you very dedicated people, I can't be at every one of these meetings, and last night I wanted to present something to the design committee, but then I found out that they weren't going to be involved in the design, so I'm going to take the opportunity tonight at public comments, because I was here on something else, to make a comment. I think that one of the things we want to do when we design the building is we want to enhance public views along MacArthur, and I think the way to do that is 2 items very simple. Not erect any signals on MacArthur, and don't allow any added roadways onto MacArthur, which would require you to put in signals. The third item is much more innovative, and the idea is not mine. The idea is Mr. Brzezinski's. Mr. Brzezinski presented at the mayor's dinner a year ago an idea with regard to how a building could be built with a green roof. And during hearings that we had before the city council where different sites were discussed, Mr. Don Webb took up the cudgel too and said he thought that was a good idea and talked about some websites that I looked at about it. And I think that that is something that the city council should give very serious concern to when they send out the design requirements to the architects to please look into the issue of putting a garden on top of the roofs of the buildings that will be constructed there, the city hall and the parking structure, for the reason that it will enhance views for the public coming down MacArthur. Because as they come down MacArthur now, they're looking at a park area or a grassy area, and they'll be now looking at buildings, and if we can soften the look of the buildings with a green roof, with bushes and shrubs and grass on the top of roofs, it'll enhance the public views for people coming down MacArthur. And as we all know, and as everyone has said, that's one of the most beautiful things we have in the city is the view coming down MacArthur toward when you go over San Joaquin Hills Road. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comments. The next item on our agenda is the Planning Commission agenda and oral status report. Mr. Lipo.
Mayor and members of City Council, at last Thursday's Planning Commission meeting, there were several items of interest that the Planning Commission considered. First was a report on the Fury nightclub security plan. If you remember, there's a revocation action in progress, and pending the recommendation from the hearing officer, the Planning Commission had asked that the police department get the operators to get a new security plan and security firm in there because they were concerned about public safety. The report was that the new security plan was working. The new security firm was, in fact, reducing the need for police calls to that site. Next, a 3-hour hearing on 2333 Pacific Drive, and this was a request for a variance and modification that the planning staff sent on to the Planning Commission without a recommendation or request for action because we needed input on what the Planning Commission saw as appropriate interpretation of not only the coastal land use plan, but the updated general plan regarding this coastal bluff and how to protect the public view from Begonia Park. So after about 3 hours, we did get some direction, which included for the applicant to essentially cut back the size of the dwelling because the Planning Commission was not inclined to support a variance for height up to about 20 feet, exception to the existing height limit. So the applicant's going to go back and see if they can reconfigure to protect the view from Begonia Park. And if they go ahead and still require a variance, they will be required to put up story poles, so you and all of your constituents can go out and see how that might impact the view. Next, 311 Fernleaf Avenue was an appeal of the zoning administrator's decision for modification permit that would have allowed the expansion of one of the 3 units on that condo in Corona Del Mar. It's a non-conforming building. The zoning administrator had approved it. Planning Commission reversed that decision, so the 3-story provision to the front unit will not be taking place. Next, Bayburger, 600 Bay Avenue, was a request for permit to sell beer and wine on-premise and off-premise consumption. Again, the motion to approve failed, so that will not be going forward unless there's an appeal filed. Lastly, Tommy Bahamas at Corona Del Mar Plaza. Again, that was an application for an amendment to use permit to allow additional outdoor dining. Again, a motion to approve failed, and so that will not be going forward unless an appeal brought before the City Council. That is it. Questions?
Any questions, Mr. Lipo? Sounded like a very positive meeting.
It was. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda is current business, a contractual agreement between the city and Thomas C. Edwards for consulting services regarding John Wayne Airport issues. Mr. Liddell?
Mr. Mayor, almost 2 years ago, the City Council adopted what is known as the Newport Beach City Council Airport Policy. That it was a major revision of a policy that had been adopted and revised a number of times over the last 25 years. The executive summary of that policy starts out saying the City Council's primary objective is to protect Newport Beach residents from the impacts of commercial aircraft operations at and from John Wayne Airport. Later on page 9 of the airport policy, it talks about community involvement. And I read, the City Council recognizes that any plan or strategy to control John Wayne Airport impacts requires support and assistance from community-based groups concerned about airport impacts. It goes on to say that the city will communicate regularly with its residents relative to the key provisions of this policy, as well as local and regional activities that are relevant to this policy. As part of this communication, council members and staff will regularly meet with the leaders and our members of citizen-based organizations concerned about airport impacts. The item on your agenda tonight is a recommendation from myself to enter into a consulting agreement with Thomas C. Edwards, Esquire of Thomas Cole Edwards Incorporated, a professional corporation, in order to help us meet and implement the airport policy that Council had adopted 2 years ago. As Council knows, I have recently entered into a contractual arrangement with Richard Cox to do consulting services. He has a very long experience with the FAA, and because of all of the activities that are going on in the city and projects that we are pushing along, I really think it's necessary to have somebody in the community to meet regularly with community-based organizations and individuals interested in John Wayne Airport issues. And I think Tom Edwards is the person to do that. He's respected. He has a lot of knowledge and experience with John Wayne issues. And I propose that we enter into this contractual arrangement with him. The agreement is projected to run through the calendar year, and then council can decide whether it wants to continue that arrangement. But I do think that there is a need to be served, and that Mr. Edwards is the right person to serve that need.
Okay. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Daigle.
Yes, appreciate the staff report, and the city manager has been at the hub of working on airport issues and trying to manage them, so thank you for all of your leadership there. Really appreciate it. Wanted to provide some additional comments, and certainly working on the airport is one of the City Council's priorities, and the Council understands very well that the addition of a second commercial jet runway or a change in the noise curfew would directly damage the quality of life of our over 80,000 residents. The most important thing that the City Council has done in the past continues to do and must do in the future is to prevent the physical expansion of John Wayne Airport while preserving the settlement agreement and the existing noise curfew. In terms of the timing of a renegotiation, we've been hearing about 2010, 2011 time frame. The settlement agreement restricts passenger levels at 10.3 million until 2010 and 10.8 million passengers thereafter. The average daily departure of noise-restricted aircraft is 55 average per day. Now, some of you have probably noticed the expansion that's occurring at the airport and the terminal and parking, and there are no longer restrictions on the size of the terminal or on the parking. The number of aircraft that can remain overnight, what we call RON, though, is still restricted, and that's very significant because that's the number of aircraft that could potentially take off the next morning. Additionally, as the city manager mentioned in Council Policy A17, that the City Council and the community have long recognized that airport impacts are now and will continue to be the most significant threat to the quality of life of Newport Beach residents. And the key provisions of the airport policy were incorporated into the updated general plan amendment that was approved by voters in November 2006. And this policy is a strategic blueprint for the city to follow. And one of the key components of the policy is to strengthen our relationships with other cities impacted by JWA, Costa Mesa, Anaheim, Tustin, and Orange to increase our collective political power. And that's something that the council is going to be focusing on in the months ahead. And certainly, the other efforts are through the use of the Measure M Go local funds. Newport Beach and Costa Mesa are looking at ground transportation alternatives, so we are studying that issue. As the city manager mentioned, we've retained the services of Richard Cox, who is an expert on the FAA, and he will be making presentations to our Citizens Aviation Committee. And certainly all of this we couldn't have done without our community groups, AWG and Airfare, and all of their expertise in the past. And so the contract with Mr. Edwards will be to continue to work with our community groups, and I think also on some of the areas of environmental legislation. And certainly as rulemaking proceeds and some of these greenhouse gases and all of that, that could have some effect of, how we take positions concerning the expansion of the airport. And environmental impacts have been the cornerstone of our activity to date. So those would be some of my comments, and we look forward also, I think, to communicate more with the public. I know an issue that came up recently was seat allocation, and when I read the media account, it was like, well, we don't understand it, must be bad. And in fact, when you look at seat allocation, you really study the issue, the fact is that there's 300,000 less seats being allocated this year, and that's because the load factors are up. And I believe that the airport released their numbers for last year, and what they reported is that their passengers were under the cap. And so those are just some of the facts that we're going to continue to get out there. But I did want to make some notes in terms of what the council has been working on with regards to this issue. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may say one more thing, that I handed out copies of the proposed agreement to you tonight, and they were also on the table for the public.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff? Any comment from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for a motion.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, and next item under current business is S15. It's contract planning services and hearing officer services relating to Title 20 hearings.
Mr. Mayor and council members, this is an item that's a follow-up to your amendments to Title 20 that you took in January and became effective in February. Included in that staff report was an implementation plan. This is following up on that implementation plan. You have a new council policy F26, that says that you are to approve or ratify the city manager's selection of hearing officers who will deal with Title 20 issues. That's fairly broad. That includes group residential uses. It includes things that the Planning Commission and the Planning Director deal with. We have 3 names proposed for you. In addition to those 3 names, we brought before you the 3 of the firms that staff is recommending to work on as in effect, contract planning staff for the group residential use permit applications when they come in. So unless there are any other questions, there's 2 recommended actions there.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Kiff?
Have we seen any applications yet?
We have not.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the public in this item?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Dolores Otting. Is there a budget attached as to how much this is going to cost? You know, an estimated budget? I know it says $125 or $225, but we don't know yet because we haven't done it, so we're just, okay, $225 per hearing, and we don't know how many because we don't have any applications, and so this is the first time. And okay, thank you very much. I'm glad you're moving forward with this. And also, there's been some talk about a couple of new homes that don't have licenses, and no one's done anything about it. So I'm sure Dave knows about it. But anyway, okay, I guess we'll try enforcement one day. Thank you.
Can you comment on that, Dave? Are there new homes?
I would be very happy to comment on that.
Okay.
2 things. On the budget, I did include a proposed budget in the implementation plan. It encompassed everything from legal assistance to the hearing officers to what could be recouped by the applications. And secondly, I know I've received a number of emails about this home or that home being staffed up, and we do independently verify those. Those are open code enforcement cases. I'm not going to comment on them any further, and that's why I don't respond to those emails, because that would be violating the integrity of that investigation.
Thank you, Dave.
Dave, would it be fair to say that you diligently follow up on every single one of these that comes across your desk?
Indeed, we do. It's one of the more diligent activities we do in code enforcement, to look at anything from a nuisance to certainly the allegations of potential group home use starting, because we want to be able to show, too, whether or not, and there's a lot of rumors out there, and a number of them are unfounded. And I think that's fair to the operator community as well as to the residents, that we get to the bottom of these rumors and address them using our own investigations rather than using hearsay or someone else's statements.
Well, I do applaud you on moving forward with the hearing officer selections and the planning staff resources that you need. I think this is another tangible piece of evidence that we are serious about enforcing and moving ahead with these ordinances that we've passed. I'm expecting that these people will be in place and oriented properly well in time for applications to be dealt with. And as you had mentioned to me earlier, it's very clear we still have a bit more work to do on these names, particularly the hearing officer names, to be sure that there is no conflict associated with any of them that would prevent them from not just substantively, but from the standpoint of perception, pursuing their duties on behalf of the city, and perhaps a bit more investigation just in general on them. And so I'm presuming there's still the possibility that you might come back with some different or additional recommendations. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Zansky?
Just motion to move staff's recommended actions. Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, that concludes current business. Madam Clerk?
Motion for reconsideration. A motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the City Council at either this meeting or the previous meeting may be made only by one of the council members who voted with the prevailing side.
Okay, we're going to adjourn to Wednesday, April 16th, 2008 at 7 p.m. Sharon, can you explain exactly, we're only going to be hearing one item that's dealing with Hoag Hospital, but there's multiple application items that we're dealing with. Could you explain what those are?
There is a general plan amendment to relocate some development entitlement from the lower to the upper campus. There's an amendment to the development agreement, and there is a review of the existing development agreement, as well as the environmental documentation for the general plan amendment.
Okay, so we're adjourned to April 16th at 7 p.m.